Here we have a single proton, and this single proton constitutes an atom. Now, if you have one proton, we call you hydrogen. If you have two protons, we call you helium. The number of protons determines the element. Uranium has 92 protons, so all elements that have 92 protons are called uranium. Around the protons, there are some predetermined orbits. This is where the electrons can exist and nowhere else. So the electrons can be in the ground state, which is the first. They can be in the second state, which is just outside of the ground state. Third, fourth, fifth, and there's many more orbits available for the electrons. Of course, the scale here is not real. The electrons are much farther from the proton that is depicted here. Now, the electrons cannot exist in between orbits, only in the designated orbits. When the electrons are in the ground state, they have the least amount of energy. They need to get some energy to go up to higher orbits, but they cannot just have any energy to exist in the higher orbits. They have to have very specific amounts of energy. This is called quanta. This specific amount of energy that is required for the electron to be able to exist in a certain orbit. And so here they need more energy, here they need more energy, more energy, more energy, more energy. If they get too much energy, they will leave the atom. Excited atoms are atoms that have the electrons in a higher orbit than the ground state. We call this an excited atom. If you have one proton and one electron here, we say this is a neutral atom because the charge of the electron is exactly the same as the charge of the proton, but opposite. So they attract each other. The closer the electron is to the proton, the more attraction there is between the electron and the proton. This we call a neutral atom. So the charge of the electron is equal to the charge of the proton. Negative and positive charges cancel each other out in this case. They also attract each other. Negative and negative charges will repel. Positive and positive charges will also repel. This is called a positive hydrogen ion. We have a net charge here. So this is a positively charged atom. We call this an ion. All ions are charged atoms. If you have two electrons and one proton, now this will be called a negative hydrogen ion. The electrons have 1,000th the mass of the proton, but exactly the same charge as the proton. Opposite, of course.